Hi everybody, Saul here from VectorVest. Let's get into the weekly video. So I spoke about Telstra in the weekly essay this week, and what's interesting here is if you click on graphs and load up Telstra, so you type in tls.ax, enter on your keyboard, and I'm going to go back about 10 years. So let's click on the 10-year button down there, just a quick reference one there, 10 years. You can see it's been a pretty rocky ride. I'll clean this up a bit, so we're just simply looking at the share price here. Let's take that off, and you can see from around about 215, 216, share price has been falling quite heavily. And if I put on the earnings profile here, let's make this an area graph here. So on the graph layouts here, I've just selected VectorVest Simple, and there we are. And if I just take off these for now, so you can see the earnings really started to slide around about here towards the end of 217. Leading in there, if you zoom in over here, you can see it started to fall away. Even in 216, you started to see the fall, but by 217, late 217, it became very apparent Telstra's earnings were under a lot of pressure, and as such, the share price has fallen. Now, as I've noted in the weekly essay, when are things about to turn around? We're starting to see a little bit of a turnaround here in the share price, starting to see the share price coming up, but notice that the earnings are still down here. Is this more a symptom of the fact that the market overall is rising? So if I put on the market timing here, the confirmed signals, and zoom it in a bit, you'll see, well, there's been a confirmed up for quite some time there, and we went into a short confirmed up and whipsawed back up to the upside. So you can see we've been in a confirmed up for most of that time. So this market overall has been rising. And as such, as the saying goes, an incoming tide will float most boats. Is Telstra just simply a cause of the overall market overall going up? Well, I proposed a 5-step checklist to follow through. So the first step there is load up the Telstra graph, go back a couple of years. The trend is down overall on average. All right. The second checklist item I put in there is look at EPS. What's the EPS profile doing? You can see in recent years it's lousy. Put on the GRT, earnings growth rate, right? So what you need to do here, click add parameter, hover over capital appreciation, and then select GRT, earnings growth rate. Well, you can see over here, look at that, the earnings growth rate. All right, the earnings growth rate here, and if I change this from weekly, I'll bring this into being daily. So you see weekly, end of week, end of day. I'll click on best fit, and you'll see here, there we are, GRT negative 6% as of the 14th of April. So you can see over here, negative 6% earnings growth rate outlook. That doesn't instill me with a great deal of confidence just yet. If I click on add parameter, capital appreciation, and I'll come in here and select CI comfort index, and right click and make that an area graph. It'll jump out a bit at you here on a scale of 0 to 2, and I like to see a CI breaking above 1 and holding above 1, and that's certainly not taking place. So I'm seeing this more to do with the fact that the market overall is coming up. I'm not seeing it on the earnings, not seeing it on the earnings growth rate. I'm not seeing it on the comfort index. All right, and then the additional one I also noted there is to check relative timing. Okay, so put that one on, right click, and change the area. All right, so just to confirm, the 5 steps were as follows: load up the Telstra graph. Number 2, I'd noted, put on the EPS profile. Number 3, put on GRT. Number 4, put on relative timing. Number 5, put on the comfort index. So I'm not seeing the earnings ticking up, not seeing the growth rate ticking up, not seeing a healthy looking CI score, but what I am seeing is I'm seeing the technicals for Telstra starting to move up, and I believe that this is more a symptom of an overall rising market. Time will tell. Let's see what the restructure, if it does go ahead, let's see what it does. Is this going to bring about the much needed change for Telstra? So in your weekly essay there, I referred to this article by Paul Buddle. He's very clued up in the technology space regarding telcos. And if I go down here, you'll see you can read up all about it. But I thought it was very interesting what he'd written here. He said, with the restructure, it very much looks like the focus will shift towards infrastructure rather than digital services. The battle might have been lost. And I thought that was a very telling note there by Paul, because how are we going to get the earnings up? Sure, we invest more into infrastructure, and infrastructure is important, and infrastructure does, of course, provide some revenue, but we're seeing the real battle, as Paul had noted, the real battle taking place out there with the telecommunication companies at the moment is to do with their service offerings. Yes, infrastructure, of course, is important as part of the service offerings, but so are the other additional service offerings. We've seen in recent times companies like Netflix, for example, Apple, diversifying with a lot of their services. That's why you're seeing such good revenue drivers in those companies, because the service offerings, the bundle of services that they're offering, are very competitive. Is Telstra putting too much effort into infrastructure, wanting to buy out the NBN? Or they're not putting enough emphasis upon growing those earnings, i.e. through the service offerings? Time will tell. Let's see what this restructure brings about. Perhaps Servco, so that's a company that's going to look after new product developments and services, perhaps Servco is going to do that. In addition, with working with InfraCo Fixed and InfraCo Towers, my only concern there was to say, well, hang on, if you've got all these additional companies, would it lead to more red tape? Could it lead to more bureaucracy and in turn stifle the service offerings? I can't answer those questions, but what I can do is I can use VectorVest to guide me. My guidance here using VectorVest, zooming in here, well, I'm not seeing it on the earnings, I'm not seeing it on CI, and I'm not seeing it on GRT. Okay, so it is something I just need to keep my eye on. If I start to see earnings turning around, start to see the GRT earnings growth rate starting to pick up, then I know that the revenue drivers are coming into play. Interesting space to watch. Let's keep our eyes peeled. Until next week, bye for now.